Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for December 26th through January 1st. This week I read one book, I watched 5 shows, I watched 3 movies, and I listened to 1 book. Happy New Year! I haven't announced it here yet because I don't think I'm going to do a TBR, but I am doing Read Your Shelves again in January, which means I'm basically going to try to pick up as many of my owned TBR books as possible. In previous years I've made an announcement video about it and a TBR, and there's been a bingo board. This year, I'm burned out, many people are burned out. It's basically, yes, we're still doing it, but there are no prompts, do it at your own pace. I'm not being super fancy about it. I did announce it over on Instagram a few days ago, but because there's nothing to know besides read your own TBR in January, I didn't make a whole video about it. I did, however, make an announcement video about the readathon that I'm running in February, so that will be linked down below. The book that I read with my eyeballs this week was The Kindred by Alicia Dow. This comes out on Tuesday, and this was fantastic. Now, I really liked The Sound of Stars, also by this author, which was her debut, and this one ties into that one, but it's definitely not a direct sequel, or in this case prequel, because it takes place before the events of The Sound of Stars. In this world, in an attempt to solve inequality, everybody in the world is born with something called a kindred. Basically, all of the rich people are paired up with a poor person. They have these chips or something put into them basically at birth, and it means that you have a telepathic connection with this one person. You can feel all their feelings, you know how it's like to be them. Often these people become obviously very, very close. But royalty has always kind of bent the rules a little bit on this one. So if you're royalty, you're not usually supposed to get somebody at the very bottom of the barrel when it comes to poverty. You're supposed to get someone, you know, closer to your status, and this didn't happen with this one prince. Our dual perspectives are Felix the prince and Joy, his kindred. She has actually been engaged to be married because on her planet, basically, you have to get engaged. At about 17, you have to keep the population going. Her planet doesn't have a whole lot of technology. She works in a bookstore, so obviously I enjoyed that bibliophilic aspect of this. He, however, lives in a lap of luxury and has tried many, many times to help her out, but she won't take it because she figures his family will think that she's a gold digger, and there's this whole thing. There's a whole host of other political things going on, and in the spirit of not wrecking what happens in the plot of this book, I won't get too much into detail with those. What I want to say is this was a really interesting idea. I really enjoyed the connection these two had and the trepidation they had because of all of these expectations of them. This also had so many Easter eggs for The Sound of Stars, so I'm just very interested to see what else Dow creates in this universe because I really like her writing. This book comes out on Tuesday, so start making your library requests now. The first show I watched this week was The Witcher. We went back to the first season and rewatched the entire thing because I had forgotten a lot about what happened in this, mainly because when you get to the end and you realize it's not a very linear way of telling a story, I just kind of purged it all from my mind because I was annoyed by that. Like, honestly, there's only one dude in the whole show that ages, which is a problem when everybody else is immortal, but you don't really know about that and where they are in their timeline. Upon rewatch, it is a little bit more linear than I assumed after the kind of bomb that it's not completely linear, but still. If you've never seen it before, it is an action-adventure story about this guy who is a witcher, which is a type of mutant. He's got some power. He goes around killing monsters so he can basically make money doing that. He meets up with different people along the way. There are adventures had. This, of course, is in preparation to watch the second season, which we didn't get to this week, but I'm sure we'll get to soon now that we have kind of a refresher on what went on in the first season. There are 2 shows this week that I watched episodes of, but it wasn't really a structured thing. It was kind of just in the middle of things. The first one being The Sex and the City. My roommate was watching it. I think we watched some episodes from somewhere between like the 3rd season to the 5th season, and a lot of that was basically me just going, hey, that guy, hey, that guy, hey, that guy, and then looking them up and being like, and me just being like, oh yeah, that's Dexter's dad, that's the captain from How I Met Your Mother, that's Max from United States of Terra. There are a lot of dudes in this show that I was just like, I've seen all of their faces before, but on different things. The other show we watched some random episodes of was Harmon Quest. I believe we picked up halfway through the 2nd season as just something to put it on, and I think we got to the end of that season as well, and maybe into the first episode of the 3rd season as well. Again, it was just something that was on the TV while I happened to be in the room, and I've seen it before. If you haven't seen it before, sadly, it's not getting another season, which is unfortunate because it was very entertaining. But it's basically Dan Harmon, the creator of Community, sitting down with some of his friends and a celebrity guest and they're playing a role-playing game. Spencer Crittenden is the game master and he basically tells them whether or not they can do things. He is very funny and brilliant, and these campaigns are just so much fun. Not only are you watching them play, but also their characters have been animated, so it flips back and forth between the players and the actual characters, and it's a lot of fun. Additionally, my roommate introduced me to Penny Dreadful, and we watched the first 5 episodes of that. If you've never seen it before, it takes place in 1891 in London, and it's kind of a mashup of all of the stories that were happening around that time. And I do say stories because what I found hilarious in the first 2 episodes is it was making reference to 3 different classics that I've actually read. I don't read a lot of classics, so the fact that Dracula came up, Frankenstein came up, and the picture of Dorian Gray came up, I was like, okay, fantastic. They were also trying to tie in Jack the Ripper, which is not a fictional story, although they were going with the fictional story that all of the people that he killed were sex workers, which is not the case, so I guess from that aspect we're taking a fictional story, and I'm sure there will be many more literary references along the way. For example, one of the characters also works in the theater, and I'm getting some definite Phantom of the Opera vibes, and I think I tried to read that book in high school. I don't think I actually finished it though. This is fun and dark, and was kind of fun time because Josh Hartnett was actually name dropped in one of the episodes of Sex and the City we watched, and then we watched this and he is also in it, so that was just weirdly timed. I also watched the first 2 episodes of the brand new 6th season of Queer Eye. I really love this show. Honestly, I was watching it with my roommate Justin and we had to take a break after the 2nd episode because our eyes hurt from just like trying not to cry the whole time / crying the whole time, because let's be honest, that's what this show does. It is a very strange season because at the wrap of the first episode was when everything started shutting down because of the worldwide issue that was shutting everything down. And then, of course, they came back just over a year later, but it's a little bit anxiety-inducing because there's not really a statement of everybody on the show has been tested or people are using the proper precautions or anything like that. In addition to, at the end of the 2nd episode, there still being like a big housewarming party, which is great because I absolutely loved the person they were helping in the 2nd episode, like absolutely loved her, but also these big parties and no talks of vaccinations or washing hands or the fact that we're still in a panini, so it's a little bit anxiety inducing in that, but I can understand why people would want to have this space where they can just go for some quote-unquote normalcy. It's just a little bit anxiety inducing because it's not like it's gone away. On to the movies we watched this week. We watched The Big Lebowski, which is something I haven't seen since about 2004, and yeah, it's funny. It's very weird. And there's some things that don't hit for me, but not every movie is going to work 100% for everybody. I really liked the characterization, especially John Goodman's character. You kind of learn to hate him because he's not a very likable person, but the character work was super good. So if you've never seen it before, The Big Lebowski is about this guy named The Dude. His legal name is Jeffrey Lebowski, and one day he arrives home and there's these 2 thugs that beat him up and yell at him because his wife owes money, and he's like, I am not the Jeffrey Lebowski that you're looking for. And in the course of roughing him up, these guys also take a piss on this rug that he has. So he tells his boys down at the bowling alley, because that's what he spends a lot of his time doing. And one of them is like, well, the other Jeffrey Lebowski owes you a rug, so you should go see him about that because they shouldn't have been roughing you up, they should have been roughing him up and that type of thing. So he goes to the other Jeffrey Lebowski, who is loaded, and basically tries to make the case for you owe me a rug. And this guy is kind of the biggest jerk in the world. Like, he just yells at him. He's just basically like, it's nothing to do with me if your stuff got messed up, so get off my property. So the dude just takes a rug from the house with him and leaves, and from here he gets embroiled into some schemes that the rich folk are partaking in, and it just kind of spirals from there. This movie is fun because it is ridiculous. Since Megan hadn't gotten around to seeing it yet, and it's kind of the end of the time frame where it's socially appropriate to do so, I also rewatched Single All the Way. I've already talked about this one because the week that I watched it, I actually watched it twice. I really enjoyed it. I understand that there are some problems, and some people were like, why does this family care so much about his personal life? They should just leave him alone. And like, okay, I get it, but I also see that there are families like that. So it didn't bother me as much as it bothered some other people. Is it cheesy? Yes, but it's the right kind of cheesy, and I just really adored it. I thought it was cute. Just after the stroke of midnight, we also watched Death to 2021, and I don't recommend it just based on the fact that I was just really depressed when I went to sleep. Of course, there were a lot of terrible things that happened over the course of the year, and then the satire of these people playing these characters just making it a little bit worse, and I could laugh at a bunch of it. I did laugh at a bunch of it, but overall I was just like, I do not feel much hope for humanity, and that's not what I really want going into a new year and all that type of stuff. So it does have funny bits, so you can ignore the impending doom, panic, and the characters that are obviously satire, but you've seen too much of those real characters, then yeah. The book I listened to this week is These Violent Delights. This is the first one what I believe is a duology. It takes place in Shanghai, and it is a Romeo and Juliet reimagining. What's interesting about this take is you definitely see the parallels to the original tale, but it's been taken out of context and certain things have been changed around. So for instance, when Juliet and Roma were 15, they were found out, and instead of them both dying, they were kind of separated for a while. Now it's about 5 years later, they're back in the same city, and they find themselves having to work together because there's a plague spreading around Shanghai, and they both want to stop it because it's affecting everybody. Since they're each next in line to run the family gangs that they're both a part of, they can't be seen helping each other and working together, so they kind of have to be extra sneaky, and this comes down to what loyalty looks like and them just wanting to fix things. And I thought it was really great. I'm also really excited to listen to the sequel in about 4 or 5 weeks when I get the next hold from the library. I can't remember exactly which decade this was set in. It was either the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, something like that, so it's about 100 years ago-ish. And even being set in that time frame, this book also happens to have queer characters in it. And I love seeing the little behind-the-scenes things about those characters. For most of this book, you are following Juliet or Roma, but you do also get to see their families and kind of go into their lives a little bit and get an understanding of these people having to hide who they are, but also try to be who they are. And I just really enjoyed that inclusion. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!